Somewhere tonight, a dog is standing at a door, breathing in the world you cannot see. Welcome to the Sleepy Lab. Tonight, we will drift through the quiet, hidden life of dogs, how they sense, how they feel, how they experience every passing moment in ways we are only beginning to understand. If this voice helps you rest, consider subscribing. One sleepy soul at a time. Now, let's begin. A dog's sense of smell is almost impossible to put into human terms. It is roughly 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive than yours or mine. A world you walk through seeing colors and shapes, a dog walks through reading scent. Where we have about 6 million olfactory receptors tucked inside our noses, a dog may carry up to 300 million. Each one a tiny sensor, quietly gathering information from the air, building a picture of the world that we will never quite see. And the part of a dog's brain devoted to making sense of all that scent, is proportionally 40 times larger than the same region in a human brain. 40 times more space, dedicated to understanding what the air is carrying. Think of it this way. A dog could detect a single teaspoon of sugar, dissolved in 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools of water. Not a cup. Not a tablespoon. A single teaspoon, lost in millions upon millions of gallons, and still, the dog would know it was there. Every dog carries something else that is quietly remarkable. Its nose print. The pattern of ridges and creases on the surface of a dog's nose is unique to that animal alone, much the way your fingerprint belongs only to you. No two dogs share the same pattern. Each nose, a small signature written by nature. If you have ever noticed that a dog's nose is wet, there is a gentle reason for it. That thin layer of moisture helps capture scent molecules drifting through the air. It is not a flaw or a sign of cold. It is a tool, a delicate film that pulls the invisible world closer. And the way a dog breathes is different from the way we do. When a dog inhales, air enters through the front of its nostrils. When it exhales, air slips out through small slits on the sides. This means a dog does not have to stop smelling in order to breathe out. There is a continuous, unbroken stream of scent flowing in, always arriving, always being read. There is something even more delicate happening. A dog can smell separately with each nostril. The left nostril gathers its own information, the right nostril gathers its own, and the brain compares the two. This is how a dog can locate the direction of a scent, the way you might turn your head to find where a sound is coming from. A dog turns its attention between 2 tiny channels of air, and knows which way to walk. Some of the things dogs can detect are almost too faint to believe. Certain odors, in concentrations as low as parts per trillion. To put that in perspective, a part per trillion is like a single drop of water, in 20 Olympic swimming pools. And yet, to a dog, that single drop tells a story. This extraordinary sensitivity has led to something quietly profound. Trained dogs have detected certain cancers in human breath and urine samples, with remarkable accuracy. The chemical signatures of illness, too faint for any machine to catch in those early stages, were not too faint for a dog's nose. Somewhere in the subtle chemistry of a single breath, dogs can also smell the quiet chemical shifts that happen inside a person's body when blood sugar begins to drop. Before the person feels dizzy, before any device sounds an alarm, the dog already knows. It has read the change in the air around the skin, a shift so small it has no color, no sound, no shape, only scent. And some dogs can sense an oncoming epileptic seizure, minutes before it happens. The evidence suggests they are detecting a change in body chemistry, a faint signal carried on the skin or in the breath, something the body releases without knowing it, and the dog receives without being taught to listen. We do not fully understand how they do this. As far as we can tell, it is the scent, but the mechanism remains partly mysterious. What we do know is that dogs have been doing this quietly, reliably, sitting closer, nudging a hand, refusing to leave a person's side, minutes before the seizure arrives. All of this, from a nose no bigger than the tip of your thumb. 100 billion scent molecules in every breath of air, and a dog reads them the way you might read a letter from someone you love, slowly, carefully, missing nothing. So tonight, if there is a dog sleeping somewhere near you, or if you are simply remembering one who once did, know that the world they lived in was richer than we ever realized. Layered with invisible ink that only they could read. And they read it quietly, without ever needing to explain. And they read it quietly, without ever needing to explain. Consider something as ordinary as a fire hydrant on a quiet street corner. To us it is just a piece of metal, painted, perhaps chipped, unremarkable. But to a dog, that hydrant is a kind of newspaper. A layered chemical record left behind by every dog who has passed by. Each mark carries information: who was here, how long ago, whether they were male or female, young or old, anxious or well. The dog does not read this all at once. It lingers, sniffing in slow careful passes, drawing in one layer, then another still. Each scent sits at a slightly different height, a slightly different age, and the dog knows the difference. It can tell which visitor came first and which came last, not by sight, not by memory, but by the gentle fading of molecules in the open air. This is how a dog reads time. Not with clocks, not with calendars, but with the slow dimming of a scent left behind. A trail on a forest path tells a dog not only what animal walked there, but roughly how many hours ago it passed. The fresher the scent, the stronger the signal, and as the hours wear on, the molecules thin and scatter. A dog following a trail is following a story that is slowly disappearing, and it knows exactly how far along that disappearance has come. Time, for a dog, has a smell. And this extraordinary sense, this ability to read the invisible, is the very first thing a dog ever knows. A puppy is born into complete darkness. Its eyes are sealed shut. Its ear canals are closed. There is no light, no sound, nothing but warmth and pressure and the faintest traces of scent drifting through the air. The nose is already working. From the very first breath, a puppy can smell its mother, can find her warmth, can tell her apart from the rest of the world even though it has never. A dog's first experience of being alive is touch and smell in total darkness. There is something quietly profound about that. To enter the world without sight or sound, and to navigate it anyway, guided only by what the air carries and what the skin feels. For the first weeks of life, this is all there is, a warm landscape of scent and softness, and it is enough. When a puppy's eyes finally open, roughly 2 weeks after birth, the world that greets them looks nothing like the one we see. We live in a world painted with every color. Red autumn leaves, green summer grass, the full bright spectrum of a sunset. But a dog sees something different, something quieter. Their world is made mostly of blues and yellows, soft tones that blend and shift like a painting left out in gentle rain. What looks red to us appears as a dull brownish tone to a dog. Green becomes a muted yellow. The vibrant distinctions we take for granted simply do not exist in their version of the world. This is not a lesser world. It is simply a different one. And in some ways, it is a world built for other things. A dog's eyes hold far more rod cells than ours. These are the cells in the retina that detect light rather than color, and dogs have them in abundance. This means that while their world may be painted in fewer hues, it is a world they can see in the near dark. A dog can see clearly in light roughly 5 times dimmer than what your eyes would need. The last fading glow of twilight, the thin blue light just before dawn, these are not obstacles for a dog. They are more than enough. Behind the retina, dogs carry a structure we do not have, a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum. It sits like a quiet mirror at the back of the eye, and its purpose is simple and elegant. Any light that passes through the retina without being absorbed gets a second chance. The tapetum catches it and sends it back through again, doubling the eye's opportunity to use whatever faint light is available. This is why a dog's eyes glow in the dark. If you have ever seen that soft bright shine looking back at you from across a dim room, or caught in the beam of a flashlight on a late evening walk, that glow is not coming from within the dog. It is your own light, returning to you, reflected off that hidden mirror, bounced back through the retina and out into the night. There is something almost gentle about that. A dog's eyes, quietly giving back the light they are given. And those eyes see more of the world at once than ours ever could. A dog's field of vision stretches to roughly 250 degrees, compared to our 180. They can see almost behind themselves without turning their head. The world wraps around them in a wide soft arc. And very little escapes the edges of their sight. But what they see in that wide arc is not what we might expect. A dog's eyes are not built for fine detail. They would not notice the pattern on a butterfly's wing from across a garden, or read the letters on a sign. What they are built for is something older, something more. A dog can detect the smallest motion at a remarkable distance. A rabbit shifting in the grass 200 yards away, a leaf tumbling along a fence line, the faintest twitch of something alive against a still background. These are the things a dog's eyes were made to find. The world, to a dog, is not a collection of sharp still images. It is a field of motion and stillness, and anything that moves is instantly, quietly noted. A still object at a distance may be nearly invisible to a dog. It blends into the background, unremarkable, lost in the blur. But the moment it shifts, even slightly, the dog sees it. The eyes catch what the mind was already waiting for. This is a vision shaped not by curiosity about detail, but by thousands of years of survival. Eyes that ask only one question of the horizon. Is anything out there moving? And in the dim blue light of early evening, with that quiet mirror behind the retina, and that wide soft arc of sight stretching nearly all the way around, a dog stands in a world we can barely imagine. A world of muted color and extraordinary sensitivity, where the faintest motion against a darkening sky is as clear as a voice calling out across a still room. They do not need the colors we see. They do not need the sharpness we rely on. They have something else. A world built for dawn and dusk, for the in-between hours when the light is thin and the air is full of information. And they move through it quietly, reading what the air carries, watching what the stillness hides. And there is something else about the way dogs see, something we only recently came to understand. For a long time, people wondered why dogs seemed uninterested in television, why they would glance at the screen and look away, unbothered. The answer was not that they couldn't see it. It was that they saw it too well. A dog's eyes process visual information faster than ours. They see the world at a higher flicker rate, where we perceive a smooth, continuous image on a screen. A dog watching an older television saw something quite different. A series of still images, flashing one after another, like slides projected on a wall. Not a moving picture at all, just a stuttering sequence of frozen moments with darkness in between. To us, the picture moved. To them, it flickered. It must have seemed strange, a glowing box full of stuttering light, and the humans staring at it as though something important were happening. Only now, with modern screens refreshing at higher rates, does the image finally move smoothly enough for a dog to follow. And so now, some dogs do watch. They track the motion of animals across the screen, they tilt their heads at unfamiliar sounds from the speakers. They are seeing, perhaps for the first time in the history of dogs and televisions, something close to what we see. Though of course, what they see is still painted in blue and yellow, a quieter picture than ours, but a moving one, at last. And yet, for all the quiet wonders of a dog's vision, it is not the sense they trust most in the dark. When the light fades and the shapes go still, a dog turns to something deeper, something even more ancient than sight. A dog can hear frequencies far beyond the reach of the human ear. We hear up to roughly 20,000 Hz on a good day, and less as we age. A dog hears up to about 65,000 Hz, an entire world of high, thin sounds that exist in perfect silence for us. sounds we will never know. And not only do they hear higher, they hear farther. A sound that reaches your ear from across a quiet field, a dog could hear that same sound from 4 times the distance. Standing in the same place, in the same stillness, a dog is listening to a much larger world than you are. Every rustle, every breath of wind through dry grass, every distant footfall on soft earth, it all arrives sooner, and from further away. The dog hears the world approaching long before it comes into view. And the way they listen is remarkable in itself. A dog has more than 18 muscles in each ear. 18 muscles, devoted to the simple, elegant task of turning, tilting, lifting, folding. Each ear moves independently of the other. One may swivel forward while the other angles back, scanning different directions at once, like 2 soft satellite dishes slowly searching the air. You have seen this, perhaps. A dog lying still, eyes half closed, and one ear rotating gently toward a sound you cannot hear. The body resting, but the ears still working, still gathering. And that familiar gesture, the gentle tilt of the head when a dog hears something curious. It is not just endearing. It may serve a purpose. By tilting its head, a dog subtly changes the position of its ears, and this may help it judge more precisely where a sound is coming from. A small adjustment, a fine-tuning of the world. As though the dog is saying, without words, "Let me hear that again, just a little more clearly." Now consider this. A puppy is born deaf. For the first weeks of life, the world has no sound at all. There is warmth, and there is smell, and there is the soft pressure of siblings nearby, but there is no sound. No voice. No footstep. No wind. And then, at around 3 weeks of age, the ear canals open. And the world floods in. Every sound, all at once, for the very first time. The mother's breathing, the rustle of bedding, voices from another room. It must be overwhelming in a way we cannot quite reach with memory, because we do not remember our own first sounds. But for a puppy, there is a day, a single, quiet day, when silence ends and never returns. And from that moment on, the ears are always listening. This is why storms can be so distressing for a dog. Thunder, to a human ear, is loud and sudden. But to a dog, it is louder still, and more complex. They hear layers within the sound that we do not, deeper rolls, higher cracks, subtler echoes bouncing off the hills and houses. The storm is not just noise to them, it is an overwhelming wall of layered sound, arriving from every direction, with no visible source and no clear end. It is not that they are afraid without reason. It is that they are hearing something far more intense than what we hear. A storm, to a dog, is a bigger storm. And it is not only thunder. Dogs hear the ultrasonic whine of electronics, the high-pitched hum of a charging phone, the faint buzz of a fluorescent light, the nearly silent pulse of a television on standby. Sounds that do not exist. We sit in what we call silence, and the dog hears a dozen small, thin voices we will never know are there. The ear itself is shaped for this. A dog's ear canal is not straight like ours. It bends in an L shape, turning downward and then inward. This shape helps funnel sound efficiently toward the eardrum, gathering it, directing it, amplifying the faintest vibrations. Though this same shape, curving and worn, also traps moisture, which is why a dog's ears need gentle care, especially after rain or swimming. A small cost, for such extraordinary hearing. And deep within that hearing, carried forward across thousands of generations, is something very old. Wolves howl to reach each other across vast distances, miles of forest, mountain, open tundra. A single voice, rising into the dark, carrying a message that is part location, part identity, part something we may never fully translate. And the others answer, voice layering over voice, each one distinct, until the night is filled with a kind of ancient, wordless conversation. Domestic dogs still carry that instinct. You hear it sometimes, late at night, a siren passing in the distance, and a dog lifting its head, and from somewhere deep in its chest, a sound rises, long, wavering, older than any breed or name. They are not confused by the siren. They are answering it, with a voice that remembers something the body has long since left behind. A call across the dark, from a time when the pack was everything, and the howl meant I am here. And even now, in a warm house, on a soft bed, with the sound of your breathing nearby, that ancient voice still lives in them, quiet, mostly, but never quite gone. And so the ancient voice rests, settling back into the quiet body that carries it. And the world goes on being tasted, touched, and felt, in ways we rarely consider. A dog's sense of taste, for instance, is far simpler than ours. Where a human tongue holds roughly 9,000 taste buds, a dog has only about 1,700. Barely 1/7 of what we carry. And yet, that smaller number does not mean a lesser experience. It means a different one. Dogs can detect the same broad categories we can: sweet, salty, sour, bitter. They tend to prefer the rich, deep flavors of meat, which makes sense for an animal whose ancestors survived on the hunt. But they will also notice sweetness in a piece of fruit, or the sharp bitterness of something they should not swallow. The tongue still does its quiet work. But here is something worth lingering on. Dogs have a receptor on their tongue that we do not have at all. A receptor specifically for water. We drink water and taste, very little, maybe the ghost of minerals, the temperature, not much else. A dog tastes water itself, as a distinct and present flavor. And that receptor is not fixed, it adjusts. After eating something salty, water tastes different to a dog, more vivid, perhaps, more necessary. After something sweet, the water shifts again, becoming something else on the tongue. Every drink is shaped by what came before it. A small, quiet conversation between the meal and the glass. We will never know exactly what water tastes like to a dog. But it is something real, something we are missing. Still, even with that special receptor, for a dog, most of what we would call flavor, is really scent. The tongue offers broad, simple notes, but the nose fills in everything else. Every detail, every layer, every memory carried in a familiar food. The smell reaches the brain long before the tongue has anything to say. And so a dog eating its meal is not merely tasting. It is breathing the food in, reading it, recognizing it. The nose leads, and the tongue follows, quietly. It is a partnership, but not an equal one. Scent does the storytelling. Taste just nods along. And now, let the tongue rest. Because there is another sense, even quieter, even closer to the skin. On either side of a dog's muzzle, above the eyes, and along the jaw, there are long, coarse hairs that look almost decorative. They are called vibrissae. And they are nothing like ordinary fur. Each one is rooted deep in the skin, surrounded by a dense web of nerve endings, exquisitely sensitive to the faintest shift in the air around them. These are not hairs that feel touch in the way we usually mean. They feel the space around them. A dog walking through a dark room does not need to bump into the chair to know it is there. The air itself tells the story. As the dog moves forward, the air pushes gently against the walls, the furniture, the edges of things, and those tiny pressure changes ripple back toward the face. The vibrissae catch them. And the dog adjusts, stepping around what it has never seen and never touched. A kind of seeing, without light, without contact. Just the feel of the world pressing softly back. In total darkness, a dog is not lost. It is reading the room with its face. And below, much further down, the paws are doing their own quiet listening. The pads of a dog's paws are thick and tough, built for rough ground, sharp stones, long distances. But beneath that toughness, there are dense clusters of nerve endings, finely tuned to texture and vibration. A dog feels the ground the way a musician feels the strings. Not just the surface, but what moves beneath it. Vibrations travel through soil, through wood, through pavement, and the paws receive them. The distant rhythm of footsteps approaching from down the hall. The low hum of a truck still a block away. A dog standing perfectly still on a wooden floor may already know someone is coming, long before the sound reaches its ears. The ground speaks first. And the paws are always listening. This is part of why a dog seems to know things it should not know, why it waits at the door before you have even turned onto the street. It is not magic. It is sensitivity, pressed flat against the earth, reading every tremor the world offers. There is something else about those paws, something the body does without thinking. Dogs walk on cold ground, on snow, on frozen earth, on winter sidewalks, and their paws do not freeze. There is a special arrangement of blood vessels in the pads, a kind of heat exchange, where warm blood flowing outward passes very close to cold blood returning inward. The warmth transfers, just enough, keeping the pads from losing too much heat, while the rest of the body stays warm. It is a small, elegant piece of engineering, written into the blood itself. Not just the quiet machinery of a body that learned, long ago, how to walk through winter. And when they are very young, before that machinery has fully come to life, puppies cannot regulate their own temperature at all. They are born into a world they cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot warm themselves against. And so they huddle. Small bodies pressed together in a heap, each one giving warmth to the others, each one receiving it back. It is their first act of cooperation, before they even know what cooperation means. Just the instinct to move toward warmth, toward the soft pressure of another living thing. A pile of sleeping puppies is not just endearing. It is survival, carried out in the gentlest possible way. And as they grow, as the eyes open and the ears wake and the legs find their strength, the body becomes more capable of holding its own heat. But the love of closeness remains. You see it in the grown dog who presses against your leg. In the one who sleeps with its back touching yours. The need for warmth becomes the need for nearness, and the two are never fully separated. And perhaps nowhere is a dog more open, more trusting, than when it rolls onto its back. The belly is one of the most sensitive areas on a dog's body. The skin is thinner there, the fur often softer, the nerve endings closer to the surface. It is a place of vulnerability. An animal that exposes its belly is saying something profound without words. I trust you. And when you run your hand slowly across that warm, soft skin, the dog feels it deeply. Not just the pressure of your palm, but the safety it represents. The nerve endings respond, and somewhere in the brain, a quiet wave of comfort moves through the body. This is why the eyes go soft, why the legs relax, why the breathing slows. A belly rub is not just pleasant. It is an act of mutual trust, given and received in silence. The dog offers its most vulnerable self. And you answer with gentleness. And in that small, still moment, something ancient passes between you. Something that needs no voice, no scent, no sound. Just warmth. Just touch. Just the quiet language of a body at rest, in the company of someone it loves. And sometimes, in the stillness that follows, a dog will simply look at you. Not glancing, not scanning the room. Just looking, with soft, steady eyes, into yours. It seems like such a small thing. A moment most people barely notice. But inside both bodies, something remarkable is happening. When a dog gazes into its owner's eyes, the brain begins to release oxytocin. The same hormone that flows between a mother and her newborn child. The same quiet chemical that says, you are safe here, you belong. And here is what makes it extraordinary. It is not only the dog who feels it. The human does too. The same oxytocin rises in your own blood, simply from meeting that gentle gaze. A loop forms between you, silent and invisible. Each look deepening the calm in the other. Each moment of stillness drawing the bond a little tighter. No words are needed. No touch. Just two pairs of eyes, resting in each other's presence. And this small, quiet exchange, is something that wolves do not do this. Even wolves raised from birth by human hands, fed by human hands, kept warm in human homes. They do not gaze into human eyes the way a dog does. The mechanism is not there. It never evolved in them. It evolved only in dogs. Somewhere along the long, slow road from wild animal to companion, this ability appeared. A new kind of connection, written not in language, but in chemistry, in the soft architecture of the brain itself. And that road is very, very old. Dogs were likely the first animal ever domesticated by humans. The partnership stretches back roughly 15,000 years, perhaps longer. Some genetic evidence suggests that dogs and humans may have walked together for over 30,000 years. Long before cattle, long before horses, long before wheat was planted or cities were built, there was a dog, lying near a fire, watching the dark. No one decided to domesticate them. There was no plan. What likely happened was far more gentle than that. Some wolves were a little less afraid. A little more curious. They lingered at the edges of human camps, drawn by the warmth of the fire, by the scraps of food left behind. They did not attack. They did not flee. They simply stayed, a little closer than the others. And the humans let them. Perhaps those early wolves offered something in return without meaning to. A bark in the night when something approached. A presence that made the darkness feel less vast. Over time, the ones who stayed were the ones who bred. The ones who tolerated human closeness, who showed less fear, less aggression. They passed those traits to their young. And their young passed them further still. Over thousands of generations, something shifted. The bodies changed. The jaws grew shorter. The ears softened. The eyes grew rounder, more expressive. The tails began to wag. And slowly, so slowly that no single generation would have noticed, the wolf became something else entirely. A new kind of animal, shaped not by the pressures of the wild, but by the quiet proximity of a human hand. And what emerged from all those centuries, was not just a tamer wolf. It was a creature that could read us. Dogs can look at a human face and distinguish between happiness and anger. They see the difference in the set of the mouth, the tension around the eyes, the way the skin shifts when a smile forms or a brow tightens. They notice what many humans overlook in each other. And they do it in a particular way. When a dog looks at a human face, it tends to look at the right side first, your right side. This is the side where emotions are expressed more strongly, more openly. It is the same side that humans instinctively read when looking at one another. Dogs learn this, or perhaps they always knew. They respond to more than faces. A dog understands the meaning carried in the tone of a human voice. Not the words themselves, but the shape of the sound, the rise and fall, the warmth or the tension. And this understanding crosses language. A dog raised in one country can respond to the emotional tone of a voice speaking a language it has never heard before. Because it is not listening for vocabulary. The softness that means safety. The sharpness that means stop. The low, warm hum that means everything is all right. Dogs hear all of this, and they respond. Some dogs go even further. A dog can follow a human pointing gesture. You extend your hand towards something across the room, and the dog looks where you are pointing. It seems so simple, so obvious. But it is not. Even our closest genetic relatives struggle with this. Chimpanzees, who share so much of our biology, often fail to understand what a pointed finger means. They see the hand, but not the intention behind it. Dogs see the intention. They read the direction of your gaze, the angle of your arm, the subtle shift of your attention, and they follow it, as though your mind and theirs are briefly linked. And some dogs, a rare few, take this even further still. Certain border collies have learned to recognize over 1,000 distinct words. Not just sit and stay and walk, but the names of individual objects, told apart by sound alone. They can be asked to fetch a specific toy from a pile of dozens, and they will return with the right one. Again and again. 1,000 words, held in a mind that sees the world through scent and sound and motion. Not because they were forced to learn, but because something in them wants to understand us. The way we speak, the way we move, the way we feel. 30,000 years of closeness gave them this. Not language, but something that lives beside it. A deep, patient attention to the creatures they chose to walk beside. And tonight, somewhere in the world, a dog is lying next to someone it loves. Its eyes are closing. Its breathing is slowing. Its nose still carries the familiar scent of home. And if that person looks down, and the dog looks up, and their eyes meet, just for a moment, a loop of oxytocin will move quietly between them. Ancient, invisible, warm. The same chemistry that held them together at the first fire, still holding, still steady, still enough. And that bond, that quiet thread between two species, it runs deeper than eye contact alone. A dog can sense what you are feeling, even when you have not said a word, even when you believe you are hiding it well. When stress moves through your body, it changes you in ways too subtle for any human to notice. Your sweat carries a faint signature of cortisol, your breath shifts in chemistry, and to the dog beside you, these changes are as clear as a voice speaking aloud. You do not need to cry, or tremble, or say that something is wrong. The dog already knows. It read the answer in the air before you even understood the question. And when fear arrives, the change is even sharper. Your body floods with signals, adrenaline alters your skin, your heartbeat pushes different compounds to the surface, and all of it drifts outward, invisibly, carried on warmth and breath. A dog standing nearby will catch that shift, the way you might catch the scent of rain before a storm. Not because it is looking for trouble, but because it is always, gently, paying attention to you. And here is what makes this even more tender. Dogs do not simply detect what you feel. When you are anxious, your dog may grow restless, pacing, panting softly, pressing closer to your side. Not because it understands the cause, but because your emotional weather has become its own. Your unease settles into its body like a second heartbeat. They mirror us. Not perfectly, not with the full weight of human worry, but with something honest and immediate. A kind of emotional echo that moves between you without effort, without thought, as naturally as warmth passing between two hands held together. This is not something they were trained to do. It is something that grew over thousands of years of watching us, sleeping beside us, learning the rhythms of our joy and our sadness. And dogs do not only read our feelings. They speak their own, in a language that is quiet, and physical, and far more precise than most people realize. A wagging tail, for instance, is not always what it seems. We tend to read every wag as happiness, but the truth is more layered than that. The direction of the wag matters. The speed matters. The height at which the tail is held, all of it carries meaning. A wag that sweeps more to the right side of the body generally signals something positive, comfort, recognition, warmth. But a wag that drifts to the left often suggests uncertainty, hesitation, a feeling that has not yet settled into ease. And the dog is not choosing to send these signals. They arise from the way its brain is organized, the left hemisphere guiding the right side of the body toward calm, the right hemisphere pulling the other way when something feels unresolved. A whole conversation, happening in the soft motion of a tail, too subtle for most of us to read, but perfectly clear to every other dog in the room. And the tail is only one word in a much larger language. Dogs speak with their ears, pressing them forward in attention, pulling them flat against the skull in appeasement or worry, lifting them high when something catches their interest in the distance. They speak with their posture, leaning forward when confident, shrinking low when unsure, shifting their weight in ways that other dogs read instantly. They speak with the tension in their muscles, the set of their jaw, the stillness or softness of their whole body. Every part of them is saying something, all the time, in a conversation that never stops. And perhaps the most joyful word in all of that language is the play bow. A dog drops its front legs low to the ground, stretches them forward, lifts its hindquarters into the air, and holds there for just a moment. It is a universal signal, understood by dogs everywhere, regardless of breed or size or temperament, and it means something simple and beautiful. Everything that comes after this is just for fun. Whatever I do next, the chase, the tumble, the growl that sounds fierce but is not, none of it is real. All of it is play. A small contract of trust, offered freely, honored completely. And there is one more quiet sign of connection that dogs share with us, one that is easy to miss. Dog, when you yawn, and your dog yawns a moment later, that is not coincidence, and it is not boredom. It is a small reflection of empathy, a mirroring that says, in the softest possible way, I am with you. I feel the rhythm of your body near mine. And what makes this even more gentle, is that puppies do not do this with strangers. Only with the people they are bonded to. The contagious yawn is not automatic. It is personal, reserved for those who matter. A tiny, sleepy gesture, that carries the weight of trust. And speaking of sleep, dogs dream. During the deepest phase of rest, when their breathing slows and their eyes move beneath closed lids, dogs enter the same REM sleep that carries us into our own dreams. And smaller dogs tend to dream more often than larger ones, slipping into those vivid cycles more frequently, as though their minds have more to sort through in shorter bursts. You may have seen it. A sleeping dog's paws begin to twitch, its legs move in small, running motions, a soft bark escapes, barely louder than a breath. What you are watching is most likely a replay. The day's walk returning in fragments, a scent revisited, a ball thrown again across a sunlit yard. The mind doing what minds do in sleep, gathering the scattered pieces of experience, and holding them gently up to the light. We cannot know exactly what a dog sees in its dreams, but the movement suggests something familiar, something lived, something worth remembering. And dogs give a great deal of their lives to sleep. Roughly 12 to 14 hours each day, though much of that is not deep rest. It is a light doze, a half sleep, where the ears still turn toward sounds, and the nose still reads the air. A dog resting on the floor beside you is not fully absent. It is hovering at the edge of awareness, close enough to wake at the softest call of its name, close enough to feel you shift in your chair, close enough to know you are still there. Even in sleep, the attention remains. Even in stillness, the bond holds. And perhaps that is the truest picture of how a dog moves through the world. Not just through scent and sound and motion, but through closeness. A constant, quiet orientation toward the ones it loves. Awake or dreaming, tail still or gently swaying, ears lifted or folded soft against its head. Always listening. Always near. And there is something else a dog carries with it through the hours, something quieter than hearing, subtler than sight. It is a sense of time. But not time as we know it. Not the ticking of a clock or the turning of hands on a dial. A dog's sense of time may be something far more intimate than that. It may be woven into scent itself. When you leave the house in the morning, your smell stays behind. It lingers on the chair where you sat. On the floor where you walked, on the doorframe where your hand rested for just a moment as you stepped outside. And then, slowly, it begins to fade. Hour by hour, your scent grows thinner, lighter, less certain in the air. And your dog may know this. Not as a thought, but as a feeling, a slow, quiet shift in the atmosphere of home. The concentration of you, gently weakening, Some researchers believe this is how a dog measures your absence. Not by counting minutes, but by breathing in the fading shape of where you were. As your scent weakens through the day, a dog may literally smell how long you have been gone. Which means that when you return, when the door opens and fresh scent rushes in, the world is suddenly full again. The room that had been slowly emptying, fills. And perhaps that is part of why the greeting is always so warm. Not just because you are loved, but because your return is, in a way, the return of time itself. The air makes sense again. This extraordinary nose, this quiet, tireless instrument, has found its way into work that reaches far beyond the home. Dogs have been trained to detect the scent of endangered animals in the wild, creatures so rare and so hidden that human searchers might walk right past them. A dog can find the scat of a particular species buried under leaves on a forest floor, or catch the faint trace of a nesting bird along miles of empty coastline. In this way, dogs help protect lives they will never see, guided only by the invisible trails those lives leave behind. And in the mountains, when snow falls heavy and silence covers everything, avalanche rescue dogs move across the white surface, reading what lies beneath. A person buried under several feet of snow, motionless, invisible, still breathes. And that breath carries scent, rising slowly through the packed ice, reaching the open air in traces so faint that no instrument we have built can match what a dog's nose finds in seconds. The dog pauses, circles, and sits down. Beneath that spot, someone is alive. There are stranger things still about how dogs move through the world. They seem to carry within them a quiet awareness of the earth itself. Studies have found that dogs tend to align their bodies along a north-south axis when they relieve themselves, as though some deep, old part of their brain is reading the planet's magnetic field. We do not fully understand why, or what it feels like from the inside. But it suggests that a dog's map of the world may include forces we cannot see or feel at all. And always, beneath everything, the nose continues its work. A thin layer of mucus coats the surface of a dog's nose, and this is not merely moisture. It is a working layer, a delicate film that captures scent molecules from the air and helps sort them, prioritize them. A dog does not simply smell everything at once in a single overwhelming wave. The nose is selective. It finds what matters and lets the rest fall softly away. And what the nose gathers, the brain arranges. Dogs may process scent in a way that gives them something like a timeline. Not just what is here now, but what was here before, and what came before that. Each scent carries its own age, its own weight of time. And a dog reading a patch of ground may be reading it the way you might read a page, one line after another, in order. A kind of story told in molecules, with a beginning, a middle, and a trailing, fading end. There is also a hidden organ that most people never hear about. Tucked inside the roof of a dog's mouth is something called the Jacobson's organ, a small, specialized chamber that detects pheromones and other chemical signals. Sometimes you may notice a dog licking at the air, or chattering its teeth in a strange, soft rhythm. This is not restlessness. It may be the dog drawing scent into this organ, tasting the chemistry of the world in a way we have no language for, reading signals left by other animals, or sensing shifts in the environment that pass through the air like whispers. It is another doorway into a world we stand just outside of. And some dogs have followed scent to almost unbelievable lengths. Bloodhounds, with their long, folded ears and heavy jowls that help funnel scent upward from the ground toward their nose, can follow a trail that is over 300 hours old. That is nearly 13 days. 13 days of wind and rain and sun and footsteps crossing over footsteps, and still, the trail holds, still, the dog follows. The scent we leave behind is more personal than we might imagine. Dogs can distinguish between identical twins by smell alone, provided those twins live in different environments. The same genetic code, the same face, the same voice, and yet the dog knows, because each life leaves its own invisible mark on the skin, shaped by what you eat, where you sleep, the air you breathe, the world you move through day after day. To a dog, no two people smell alike. No two lives read the same. And here is something quietly beautiful about all of this. When a dog follows a trail, when it lowers its nose and begins to track, its brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to pleasure and reward. This means the act of following a scent is not just useful, it is enjoyable. Perhaps even joyful. The search itself is the gift. Not only the finding, but the following. The long, patient unraveling of a thread that stretches out ahead, invisible to the eye, but alive to the nose, one breath at a time. A dog on a trail is not working in the way we might think of work. It is doing something it was born to do, something that feels, from the inside, like purpose and pleasure folded gently together. And maybe that is worth holding as you settle deeper into rest. The thought that somewhere in the world right now, a dog is following a trail through tall grass, or across a quiet field, nose low, breathing slowly, perfectly content in the act of discovery. Not rushing. Not straining. Just following the next breath, and the next, and the next. As the world grows still around you, let that be the rhythm you carry into sleep. Slow, steady, patient. One breath at a time, following wherever it leads. And some dogs carry that same on hillsides and open pastures. Herding dogs move with a stillness that borders on meditation. They watch the flock, not with urgency, but with a deep, patient attention. Reading the subtle shifts in a sheep's body language, the slight turn of a head, the tensing of a shoulder, the weight moving from one hoof to another. And from these tiny signals, the dog knows what the sheep will do next, before the sheep itself seems to know. It is a conversation without sound, a dialogue written in posture and movement and the faintest flicker of intention. The dog does not chase. It guides, adjusting its own position by inches, slowing when the flock slows, pausing when the flock needs a moment to settle. There is a gentleness in it that is easy to miss if you are watching from far away. But up close, it looks like listening, with the whole body. Other dogs are built for a different kind of endurance. In the far north, across frozen landscapes that stretch to the horizon, sled dogs run. They run for miles and miles, through snow and wind and temperatures that would stop most creatures in their tracks. And something happens in their bodies during those long runs that science still does not fully understand. Their metabolic efficiency increases, as though the act of running itself teaches the body to use energy more wisely, more gently. Researchers have studied this and found no complete explanation. The dogs simply become better at sustaining effort the longer they go, as if endurance is not just a physical trait but something closer to a rhythm, a settling in, a finding of pace. And perhaps that is a kind of wisdom too. The body learning, on its own, how to keep going without strain, how to move through the cold and the distance with something that looks, from the outside, like ease. But dogs are not only shaped by the work they do. They are shaped, just as deeply, by the ones they rest beside. When a dog lies next to its owner in a quiet room, something remarkable happens. Their heart rates begin to synchronize. The dog's pulse slows to match the calm, steady rhythm of the person beside it. Two hearts, belonging to two entirely different species, gently falling into the same tempo. Not because one is copying the other, but because something in the space between them allows it. A kind of trust that lives below thought, below language, in the simple act of being still together. This is why dogs prefer to sleep near their humans. It is not only for warmth, though warmth is part of it. It is for the reassurance of scent and sound. The familiar smell of your skin, the quiet rhythm of your breathing. These things tell a dog that the world is safe, that nothing needs watching for a while. That it is all right to let go. And this connection between scent and safety begins at the very start of a dog's life. A newborn puppy comes into the world with its eyes sealed shut. Its ears are closed. There is no light, no sound, only warmth and smell. And that is enough. The tiny creature navigates toward its mother guided by nothing but the heat of her body and the scent of her fur. It does not need to see her. It does not need to hear her. It knows her by the oldest senses there are, the ones that work in darkness, and the mother knows her puppies just as surely. She recognizes each one by its individual scent, from the very first moment. Even in a litter of many, she can tell one from another, not by sight, but by the quiet signature each small body carries. A scent as specific and unrepeatable as a name. This is the world a dog is born into. A world built on closeness, on the language of scent and warmth and the steady presence of another living thing. And that sensitivity never fades. A grown dog can detect the faintest traces of fear in human sweat, even when the person appears outwardly calm. You might smile, you might speak in an even voice, but the chemistry of your skin tells a different story, and the dog reads it without effort, without judgment. It simply knows, the way you might know that the air has changed before a storm. Not because anyone told you, but because something in you felt it. And yet, for all their sensitivity, dogs are not passive creatures. They think. They choose. Guide dogs, trained to lead their handlers safely through the world, learn something extraordinary. They learn intelligent disobedience. If a handler gives a command that would lead them into danger, a busy intersection, a gap in the pavement, the dog refuses. Calmly, without panic. It simply does not move. It holds its ground because it understands something the handler cannot see. This is not stubbornness. It is care expressed through stillness. A quiet no that means I will keep you safe. Dogs feel deeply in other ways too. They experience a form of jealousy. When their owner gives attention to another dog, they show signs of distress, a nudging closer, a push of the nose against a hand, a soft whine. It is not aggression. It is longing. The need to be seen, to be chosen, to remain close to the one who matters most. And there is something tender in that, something that does not need a name. Even the structure of a dog's nose reflects this life of constant, quiet attention. The airflow entering a dog's nostrils is split along two paths. One stream goes to the lungs for breathing. The other flows directly to a region dedicated entirely to scent analysis. So with every breath, a dog is doing two things at once, staying alive, and reading the world. Breathing and understanding, woven together so seamlessly that the dog does not have to choose between them, they simply happen, the way your own heart beats without being asked. And when the world is calm, when the room is quiet and the light is low, a dog's eyes tell you everything. Dogs blink more slowly when they are relaxed. The lids close gently, and open without hurry. And if you return that slow blink, if you let your own eyes soften and close for just a moment, the dog reads it as a signal of safety. A wordless message that says, all is well. There is nothing to watch for, nothing to guard against. Just this, just rest. Even music reaches them. Certain frequencies, particularly slow classical pieces, have been shown to lower a dog's heart rate. The long, unhurried notes settle into the body the way warmth settles into tired muscles. Not because the dog understands the melody, but because the rhythm speaks to something older than understanding, something that responds to slowness, to softness. And so, as you lie here now, breathing slowly, you might picture a dog somewhere nearby, curled on a soft bed, eyes half closed, ears relaxed, its heart beating in time with the quiet of the room. Not waiting for anything. Not needing anything. Just resting in the simple knowledge that someone it loves is close, that the air smells familiar, that the world, for now, is still. Let your own breathing slow to match that stillness. There is nothing to follow now, no trail, no task. Just the warmth of where you are, and the quiet that holds you. And in that stillness, something worth knowing. Even water cannot hide the world from a dog's nose. A scent molecule drifting up from beneath the surface of a pond, rising slowly through the water, breaking free into the air above, is enough. A dog standing at the edge of a lake can smell what lies below, not clearly, not completely, but enough to know that something is there, something worth noticing, the way you might catch a faint sound through a closed window, muffled, but real. The water does not erase the scent, it only slows it down, and a dog's nose is patient enough to wait for what rises. There is something peaceful in that, the idea that nothing is truly hidden, that the world is always gently offering itself up, one molecule at a time, to anyone still enough to notice. And perhaps you have seen a dog do this, standing perfectly still in a breeze, nose lifted slightly, eyes soft, not chasing anything, not alert in the way we usually think of alertness, but quietly, deeply attentive. In that single moment, the air is telling the dog a kind of story. What animals passed through this morning, whether rain is coming, who has been here, who is near, the faintest thread of something carried from far away, all of it arriving on the wind like pages of a letter written in a language only the dog can read. We might look at a dog standing still and think it is doing nothing. But it is doing something extraordinary. It is listening to the world with its whole body, gathering more information in a few quiet breaths than we could collect in an hour of looking. And it does this without effort, without strain, the way your lungs draw air without being asked, the way your heart beats without your attention. It is simply what a dog is made to do, to stand in the moving air, and know. As dogs grow older, the world changes for them in small, quiet ways. The highest frequencies are often the first to fade, the sharp edge of a whistle that once made their ears swivel now passes through the air unheard, not because the sound has changed, but because the ears have softened, the way old windows let in less light. An older dog may stop responding to a whistle it once obeyed instantly, and the people around it may wonder if it has grown stubborn, or distracted. But the truth is gentler than that. The sound simply no longer reaches them, it has slipped beyond the edge of what they can hear, like a star moving so far away that its light no longer arrives. And yet, even as hearing fades, the nose remains. Scent is the last language a dog loses, and a dog remembers familiar people primarily by scent, not by sight, not by voice, but by the invisible signature that every person carries, the one you cannot wash away or disguise, the one that is yours alone. And this memory is remarkably long. A dog separated from someone it loved, for a year, for several years, will recognize that person's scent almost instantly, the way a song you have not heard since childhood can bring back an entire room, an entire feeling, without warning. The dog may hesitate for a moment, processing what the nose is telling it, and then the body follows, the tail, the ears, the whole self leaning forward into recognition. Not because it remembers your face, but because it remembers you, the real you, the one beneath appearance, beneath language, the one written in chemistry and carried on the air. And this long memory of love stored in scent, is part of something much larger. The bond between dogs and humans is one of the oldest interspecies partnerships in the history of life on this earth. Tens of thousands of years, long before writing, before cities, before the wheel, before agriculture reshaped the land, a dog and a human sat near the same fire. We do not know exactly how it began, whether it was the wolves who came to us, drawn by the warmth and the scraps at the edge of the firelight, or whether we reached out to them first, recognizing something useful, something familiar, something kind. But however it started, it held. Through ice ages and migrations, through the slow invention of everything we now call civilization, dogs walked beside us, not because they were forced to, but because something in the arrangement worked for both. They gave us their ears, their noses, their willingness to watch through the night. And we gave them warmth, food, a place by the fire. And somewhere along the way, it became more than a transaction. It became trust. It became love. And after all of that, after tens of thousands of years of walking together, of sleeping near each other, of learning to read each other's faces and voices and silences, dogs still greet us at the door. Every time. As though the wait was almost too long. Not because they have forgotten that we always come back, but because the joy of your return is always new to them, always fresh, always worth celebrating with the whole body. The spinning, the soft sounds, the nose pressing into your hand. It is not performance. It is not habit. It is the honest, unguarded expression of an animal that has loved your kind for longer than memory. And loves you still. Right now, somewhere, a dog is curled near a door, nose resting on its paws, breathing in the fading scent of someone it loves, waiting without worry, just waiting. The way the night waits for morning. Quietly. Patiently. Knowing it will come. And you are here now, in your own kind of stillness. Breathing slowly. The world outside growing softer. There is nothing left to learn tonight. Nothing left to hold on to. Just warmth. Just quiet. Just rest.